really don't like being too late. But
I got.
Christine, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you accepting the invitation because I don't know how I got put into your guys' support group on Facebook on the messenger side of it. I don't. I do know some. Well, a lot of the people that are there, but it was kind of interesting. One day, I'm all of a sudden I'm receiving all these messages and we're going back and forth, and it's been really fun because it's that constant community support, and you guys are really good about doing that. Anytime anybody drops anything, I always see you there going, yeah, I've seen it twice, liked it twice, So that I just wanted to say thank you, whoever. I don't know who started the group or who added me to that, but thank you.
I don't know either. I was approached by Chris Stubbs from Stubbs
Oh, okay.
Aquatic, and he asked me if I was interested in joining the group. And he said, "What you're going to be required to do is, help each other." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm all about that. Put me in. I'll watch videos." And that's what I do. I just watch every video that pops up.
Oh, great. Well, before we get any further into the conversation, why don't we start off by, if you want to introduce yourself and your channel name and just the general stuff, so that people that are going to watch the interview can go follow you on your YouTube channel.
Well, my name is Chris Sweet. Actually, it's Christine. So whenever me and Stubbs are together, it's Christine. So as to not confuse other YouTubers when we're on lives. But yeah, Christine. And we started, well, actually, I started Sweet Acre Koi Farm right after my mother passed away. I was taking care of my mom. She had dementia, and we kept her here in the house with us until she passed. And after that, you have, I don't know if you'd call it like an empty nest syndrome, like when your kids go off to college and now all of a sudden you have nothing to take care of. I don't know what you'd call it, but I suddenly had all this free time. And yes, I do have a job, but I also had free time. And so I was, okay, well, now what am I going to do? So I talked my husband into building my dream pond, and it went from there. It just went crazy, and my obsession with the koi just kept growing and growing and growing, bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, I mean, it's turned into a total obsession.
Okay, so you didn't. I know when I was kind of looking at your channel and stuff like that, and I was surprised to see that. I guess your first video was like 11 years ago, but it wasn't fish related. It looked like you guys were doing stuff with fowl and on the very first videos. At, at what point does the do you go, okay, I have an interest in keeping fish or koi? Where does that come from? Is that something you've always had fish growing up, or
Oh yeah, I've always had fish, always.
okay,
I actually started the YouTube channel because of my son.
okay,
Uh, I I wanted to be able to go out there and videotape my koi pond and my goldfish pond that I had, my chickens that I had, and everything outside because my mother, she was post polio and she was in a wheelchair. She couldn't get outside. So I told her, I said, okay, what I'll do for you is I'll go out there and I'll do a video, and then I'll come back in and I'll show it to you. Well, she couldn't see it on my little phone. So I asked my son, because I tried uploading it on her YouTube channel, and that was just, no, it wasn't going to happen. And he said, Mom, let me get you a YouTube channel. And then that way you can upload your videos there. Nobody knows that you're out there. And then she can see them like on a big screen on her screen for her computer. I'm like, oh, okay. That's how that started. So I had
well,
no intention of being a YouTuber at all when I got that YouTube channel.
well, yeah, and I saw the when I was looking at those first videos. Yeah, it was interesting because you're kind of like in the, I guess, what do you call it, a hen house, or I don't know
Yeah.
what.
Chicken
Yeah,
coop.
yeah, the chicken coop, and you're
Yeah.
walking through and just kind of documenting what's in there. And then all of a sudden, I see this real short clip of what looked like a little uh, creek that I guess it's somewhere in the property, and you just kind of did a quick video off of that, and then all of a sudden you start seeing a little bit more of those videos. So by that point, how long had you been keeping koi?
Well, oh my gosh, the first time I had koi was when I had the 10-acre farm back in 1986.
Okay.
1986 is when we bought the 10-acre farm. That was my first pond. That was my first koi adventure. I've had fish since I was in school. And yeah, I've got horror stories about those, but yeah, um, really stupid mistakes when I was younger with my fish.
Yeah. So I don't think I've been able to hear or haven't paid attention, but where in the country are you guys located?
We are in Illinois.
Okay.
We are about, oh gosh, if I had to guess, I'd say probably about 90 miles south of Chicago.
Okay. Because I know it does freeze, and that was one of the things when I first came across in that group, the messenger group, was interesting to see that you were doing like daily temperature readings, and it happened to be during the winter. And you know, you always hear this: what can you keep outside, and how cold can things get and still be able to survive. But one of the things that I really found fascinating from your temperature readings was the different thermal layers within that pond. And it didn't really make sense because you would think the lower you got in that pond, the warmer it would be, but that's not necessarily the case.
No, I found that out. That is true.
Was
Because
that
I was, the reason why I did the temperature readings to begin with was because when I went on the Illinois Wildlife website, they advised that every natural pond, it will get to 37 degrees below 3 feet, which is what our frost line is. And it will
okay?
stay 37 degrees. And I'm like, huh, well, that don't make sense. But okay, I'm going to try it. So I went ahead and set up surface 3 feet down and 6 feet down just to see if there was a difference in the temperatures. And that's when I learned that there's actually that warm pocket in every pond where at the 3 feet level, that is your warmest pocket of a pond, which I never knew that. And nowhere in the research I did it tell you that the surface temperature and the bottom temperature of a pond is going to be the same. So when you take your, I know a lot of pond owners, they have these like laser pointer temperature readings, and they'll point it at the top of the water and they'll use it. And that is not a true test of what the water is 3 feet down because it is different.
So, but where did you get the idea to do the different layers? Because most people would have just dropped a probe in and not realizing, the depth of where it's at, and just kind of thinking, okay,
Well,
well,
well, I think what grabbed my curiosity was when you watch the big koi, and by big I mean over 50 centimeter koi, the bigger ones. When you watch them and you really watch them, you see how when they're at the bottom, when they see you, they don't just jet right up to the top. And it got me curious. I'm like, okay, why are they not coming straight up to the top? Why are they lapping the pond and they will come up a certain like footage and then they lap there for so long and then they start slowly coming up again. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be a difference in temperature, otherwise they wouldn't do that because they're trying to acclimate themselves into each layer of that pond. So that told me, you know what, that pond has got to be different degrees with each foot that happens. If I was smart, I would have done each foot, but I didn't. I just did the surface 3 feet and 6. And I noticed that The younger koi, like the tosai, the nisai, which are, the tosai are 1 year old, nisai is 2 year old. Those koi are very, very quick to be from the bottom to the top. They do not need to acclimate themselves like the bigger koi do, which I found interesting. They see me, they come straight up to the top. And that pond that the Nisai and the Tosai are in are 6 feet deep. And so is the big koi. Theirs is 6 feet deep. So you're not talking about a difference in depth. So why are one koi doing the lapping around and the other koi are jetting straight up to the top? So it really grabbed my curiosity, and that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to go check that out, and I'm going to check these temperature readings, and I want to know what is the difference. So that's why I did it.
Yeah. Now, this was done obviously when you guys created the bigger ponds, but were you noticing that behavior also in that smaller pond that you had in? I guess it's the driveway or something that because you can kind of see there's a little bit of asphalt, a little like a cove or something that's in the property in the beginning.
Yeah, that's the big 1/4 acre pond in the front of the house, and I never have checked temperature readings out at that pond. I only did it to the man-made ponds that we made in the back of the house. And that is also up against the driveway in the back. So yeah, I've never checked the front pond, but I have checked the back pond.
Now, is that front pond also deeper than 3 feet? Because it doesn't seem from the video you can't appreciate how deep it really is.
Well, yeah, the pond in the front is about 16 feet deep. And the pond back here that we actually made, those are both 6 feet deep. The smaller one closer to the ground, we made it to half the pond, so about 6 feet is 6 feet down. Then after the 6 foot mark, it starts sloping up to a 3 foot level.
Okay.
And we did that on purpose. So that way everything would slope down by the pump to pump it up into the top pond to go through the filtration, through the bog and back down again. So there was a reason why we did that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I know there's well, I guess you would say a pond, but it's to me it's more like a little lake where your dogs will go out run and it actually freezes over and stuff like that. Is that the pond you're talking about being 16 feet deep?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because the one that I was thinking about, it looks like it's like in the front of the property, and it almost looks like a little creek that's like a man-made creek that you guys designed somewhere in the property, it seems like, or it might be at a different property, not necessarily where you're currently at now.
I think you're talking about the other house we had.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's like in the it was like the very first fish videos that you see on your channel. Because up until that point, everything had been, related, I guess, to the farm and the animals you guys were keeping.
That pond that you're talking about, that was 4.5, 5 years ago. That was when we lived in a town.
Oh, okay.
It was a farm town. So, I mean, we had almost an acre that we were on there. But the thing of it is the pond that I had outside underneath that oak tree, yeah, that one there, it literally did not do. I mean, once the fish started to get bigger, it was like there was no place to put them. So we wound up having to get a 185-gallon fish tank with a sump and a chiller and all that. And in the meantime, while we pulled those actual koi out of that pond in the front, yeah, that's the pond in the front. And they got too big for that pond. So
yeah, that's what I was looking at that. I was looking at that. So is this still in Illinois then?
Yes. Yeah, it's only 6 miles from me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we just moved 6 miles south of that property that you're looking at.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was curious when I was looking at this, and this is obviously looking back at videos, because when I first came across your channel, when I first came across the channel, it was the current setup that you guys have now. And I went back and started seeing the building of the pond and all that stuff. But when I saw this, I was thinking, wow, I wonder if this is still in Illinois, because they didn't seem to be that deep. and you guys were keeping those out there. I was wondering if that entire waterway was freezing over and what was happening to the koi.
No, actually, it wasn't. I actually kept if you watch that whole video, you will see that right by the waterfall, we had it pretty narrow. It was only a couple of feet deep.
Hmm.
Then when they go through that little channelway and they go over underneath the bridge, that was 3.5 feet deep
Okay.
on that end by where the skimmer was. But it was a small pond. We were only supposed to put goldfish in it. And I found some koi that I liked, that I wanted. And my husband just said, "Oh no, I can see where this is going," because he knew I wasn't going to give them away. I was going to keep them, and then I would require a bigger place. And that's where the 185-gallon fish tank came in. And they were put inside
Okay.
there for the winter. And he started building my pond downstairs. So I would have a bigger, deeper area for my big koi. And that's how I got my indoor pond.
Oh, okay. All right. So now it's all making sense to me. Now, when the other thing that I've always been curious, because I don't know if this is, I don't think I've um, found this information on the videos that I've seen, but are you looking to reproduce koi to be able to sell, or this is just your own personal koi collection, and you're keeping them just for your own enjoyment?
Well, yeah, we weren't really wanting to sell, but there is a method behind my madness. What I've always wanted to do is, I don't know how do you explain it because there's nothing here like it. It would be the equivalent of having the school kids go on a field trip to a petting zoo.
Oh, okay.
Only this would be a field trip to go to a fish farm where they would be able to feed the fish, see them, have them eat out of their hand, see how beautiful that a pond would be, kind of to spark their interest in wanting to keep fish, but on a bigger scale, not necessarily just an aquarium. So that was always my goal.
Mm. Now, do you plan, or I don't know if this was always the plan, on selectively breeding certain koi species? Because I know, from what I understand, koi's, depending on the strains or species, I don't know what you want to call them, but they can get pretty expensive. I know you were recently in a show in Las Vegas, and I've always known, you always hear um, about these koi's going for thousands of dollars.
It's
So
true.
I mean, I can see the incentive in trying to breed some of these more select species. Is that something that you guys are looking to possibly getting into, where it's done here stateside? Because I think most of the expensive ones come from Japan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that is true. Um, my husband is encouraging me to transform our barn into a breeding area.
Mm.
But the thing of it is I don't want to sell them. I don't, and I know that sounds weird to some people, but I've worked retail almost all my life here and there. You know what I mean? I did other things, but um, I've worked for Lowe's, I've worked for Menards, I don't want to sell stuff. That's just not my thing. I don't want to do that. I'd much rather have them and enjoy them. I mean, my fish just spawned late last fall. I have over 100 babies, and I really just don't want to sell them. I just don't. I want to keep them. I can't. And so this is where him and I are bucking heads because he's like, well, I know you're saying you want to breed that fish with that fish because you think it's going to look really nice. He goes, but what are you going to do with all these babies? I'm like, keep them. And he goes, so that means more ponds. I'm like, maybe. I don't know. He wants me to sell them so I don't have all of them. But I don't know that I can do that because I get attached. I don't care what they look like. I get
Mhm.
attached. So it's really hard for me to even think about even giving one of my fish away. I can't even think about that right now. But yes, I did spend quite a bit of money at the All American Koi Show, way more than what I should have. Um, And yes, the koi can get very expensive, but there always is koi in your price range. That's one thing I
Mhm.
learned really fast going there is even if you don't have a lot of money, there's always a koi in your budget. There's always something out there that you can afford. I stayed within my, well, I can't say, I tried to stay within my budget that he gave me to go. I mean, I really did. I tried, but there was a few afterthought purchases because I had an opportunity. Maureen and I went together from Keith's Koi Haven, and we both really wanted a Kiyetsuri. And a Kiyetsuri is most people know them as the bumblebee koi. They're
Okay.
they're yellow body koi with black on them,
Let me see if I
and
can
they're
find one.
oh, they're just gorgeous. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. There's none in my area, and I really, really wanted one. And yeah, they didn't have any at all for sale at the All American Koi Show. I think maybe they might have had one, and I think they wanted like 5,000 for it. I think is what it was. And then the other one was for show. I think they had two of them there, and so one of them was way out of our price range, and the other one was not for sale. So
Oh,
we
okay.
were like heartbroken when we found out we couldn't get our Kia Tsuris.
Yeah, I'm not finding them under the generic name.
Just
Uh,
look under KI and then UTSURI.
well,
Actually, I have one on my page. Because
oh,
I did wind
see.
up buying one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
On
I
your
wound.
videos,
Yeah, yeah,
is it
I
a short
wound.
or is
Well,
it a regular video?
it is a regular video, and I think the thumbnail is the Kiyosuri.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Here it is. Here it is. I'll share this in a second because it's doing the.
That's fine. Well, the funny story about that Kiyosuri is I bought two Showas from her, last minute purchase, just absolute last minute purchases. And she says, "Oh, well, I have Kiyosuri at the shop. I just didn't bring any." And I'm like, "Okay, all right." I said, "Well, when we get home and you get home," I said, "just go ahead and, message me and let me know what you got. And I want to see what they look like." Yeah, that's him right, or her right there. Um, and yeah, she messaged me a couple of Kiyotsuris, and I didn't like the way they looked. And then, of course, she shows me this one, and that's a 14-inch Kiyosuri, so it's 35 cm, so it's a big Kiyosuri. And she told me, she says, "Well, I've got it, but it's for 450 bucks." I'm like, "Oh gosh, okay." And yeah, we kind of talked back and forth, and I wound up picking her up for 400. So it's not too bad, but it is an absolutely beautiful Kiyosuri. Absolutely gorgeous. Very happy with that purchase.
Yeah. So, and that was from the show up in Vegas.
It was from a vendor from the show up in Vegas.
Oh, okay, okay.
R&R Koi, I think is what they're called. They're out of California. Her
Oh,
name's
okay.
Zoe. Yeah.
Yeah. And how nerve wracking is it to have a fit? Well, for us well, for me, it would be very because I don't think I've paid more than a few, less than $100 for a fish. Now, having a $400 plus fish being shipped, I imagine that must be a little bit nerve wracking. And
It was. It was. I gotta admit, it was. It was really. I still have two more fish from the All American Koi Show coming. I actually had Mystic Koi call me about 2 hours ago, and they told Sean McHenry, he's the one who put on the event. I bought two of his fish.
okay,
One of them is a golden corn, and the other one is a Shiro. It's Surrey. And oh, he's just the most adorable little bitty Shiro at Surrey. But yeah, both those fish, one was 300. Both of them were $300 each. So yeah, I mean, they can get expensive.
So the names of these kois, is it based on who's creating the line, or is it just a name because it describes the fish in itself?
It describes the fish.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many different kinds, and I know koi breeders that have been in this business for a long time, and even they look at a fish sometimes and go, okay, what category do I put that under?
Okay.
It's really hard to get to know each and every one of them. I mean, I know I'm nowhere near knowing all of them. Most koi breeders that I know are YouTubers. They all have, if you watch their channels long enough, you'll see their big cheat sheets behind them or on the side of their filter house where they're looking up what the fish looks like. I mean, because you can't remember all of them. It's just way too hard to remember every breed of koi. It's just too hard.
So it's based on the actual markings of the fish that determines
Yes.
what kind of. Oh, okay.
It's the markings, it's the color, it's the skin. Like Deutz don't have scales. So if you have like a Deutz, oh gosh, let me think of an example. A Deutz Shiro, that means that it just doesn't have scales. It does really, but it's
Oh,
like a
okay.
metallic look to it.
Oh,
It's scaleless. So I mean, so you put the word Deutz in front of any fish that doesn't have scales. So there's certain words that you start learning that, oh, okay, I see what they're saying. There's, like you can have a shisui, but that shisui could have scales. But if it has no scales, then it's called a Deutsch shisui. It's yeah. I mean, it's a rabbit hole that, trust me, once you start going down it, it's never ending. It's never ending. I'm telling you.
yeah. Because I'm trying to remember who was the first person on YouTube that I started kind of paying attention to the kois. I mean, I've always I'm growing up down here where I'm at, trips to San Diego were always special because we could go to Balboa Park and they have this gigantic koi pond there. And I remember just looking at these big old fish that would come up to the surface, and you'd see all this coloration. And traditionally, what I would see, or what I would recognize, was what they call the koi pattern. What most of the other smaller species, because they have the black and the whites and the orange kind of color combinations, the spotting on them. But I didn't realize that within those there's like very specific colorations that'll make them more valuable or less valuable, and that to me has been very interesting. And I've learned a little bit about that just by watching some of your videos. And but what blew my mind, I guess, uh George, what is it, Coral 12 something, the guy that puts on Aquashella, he took a trip to Japan to the actual farms out there. And just to hear the conversations about the prices that some of these fish were getting, and how a lot of it was more of the reputation of the breeder, I guess, that really has this history behind it, because they go hundreds of years back where they've been breeding these fish. And I think those are like a little bit more sought out, and they go for a bigger value on them. So that whole thing started, really, I found it interesting, that there's a whole group of people out there that are buying fish that are in the thousands of dollars, instead of, we're complaining about hundreds of dollars.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are Japanese breeders that they're all different. They all, here's the way I look at them. They all specialize in something.
Mm.
Like Denichi, he specializes in this, or I mean, just every breeder out there has something that they're working on, that they specialize in, that they've won awards in, that they've prizes in, whatever. And yeah, when you keep winning, your fish are recognized, and of course they're going to be more expensive. I mean, I have my own opinion on that whole thing. When I went to the All American Koi Show, you know, it just, I guess the way I look at it is, to me, if you're gonna win a koi show, the winner should be whoever bred it, whoever raised it, not who bought it. I mean, Elon Musk can go out there and buy every top dollar koi there is here, Japan, UK, India, I mean, everywhere. And so what? He's just the best. Why? Because he has money? Because he bought them all?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I just have a thing about that. To me, you know, it's just like I see people with money trying to like nudge their way into something that Japan started as a kind of like a camaraderie, healthy competition to judge their koi, to better themselves, to strive to compete, a good, healthy competition. And it's grown over the years into this, you know, big event in Japan. And then now you get people that, you know, can afford to buy in. And now they, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, I won this show. And it's like, okay, yeah, because you bought it. Yeah. I mean, you know, if Elon Musk wanted it, guess what? You wouldn't have won. You know, I mean, it's just one of them things. So I just kind of find I'm not really interested in koi shows. I'm not really interested who
Oh,
wins or anything like that. I went to the koi show to try to buy some nice koi from what I thought was nice. And that was basically my reason to go. It wasn't necessarily to see who was going to win the All American Koi Show. That
no.
it didn't mean anything to me, to be honest with you. It really wasn't that big of a deal for me. But that's just my opinion on it. I mean, I know everybody's got their own opinion, but to me, when you can buy your way into being a winner, are you really a winner? That's just the way I've always looked at it. And that's
Oh.
just, you know,
What one of the things that interests me, or that I, just being me, when I started hearing big dollars associated with these fish, is there a lot of funny business that happens? Because I would see, if there's such a profit for some of these very specific strains, is there some manipulation, that some nefarious stuff that goes on, where they're trying to sell you a counterfeit, uh, where it's been modified, not necessarily because of through breeding, but because enhancements they'll do to the surface. Like, what comes to mind is the comment that you guys made about these fish with the perfect circle on the top of their heads. And you guys made a comment to, like, well, that's kind of interesting that they're all perfect. So that's why I'm asking this question, because it seems to me like there's some funny business sometimes that happens with people that are not aware.
well, okay, to my limited knowledge of that, I do know that I have some very, very good friends in the koi industry that I trust that have swore up and down that they know for a fact that in Japan, if you go to Japan and you look at a fish and you say, I don't like it that way, I need it to look like this, that it's called cutting, and they will modify that fish.
Hmm.
And I had a fellow YouTuber say that he literally talked to somebody who saw it happen. And I mean, I trust him, I believe him, and I know this YouTuber would never lie. And he has literally gone out on his channel on a live and basically challenged anybody to prove him wrong. He's like, I know what happens. And when you look at some of the koi, you can you can tell. I mean, you can definitely tell when something's been modified. And of course, that YouTuber's dead against it, and so am I. I don't believe in that. I don't like it. Just as back when, like you and you saw on my YouTube channel, I had all those chickens. I was every year around Easter, I was very upset when they would come out with these dyed little baby chicks to try to sell them to people who wanted to give them to their kids. And then, what, a week later, okay, do you want a chicken? Because I'm done with it now and I don't know what to do with it. I mean, same thing when they did it to the fish. Remember, they were putting those dyes in the fish, and you had people that were dead against it, saying, that's not right to do that to fish. Why are you doing that? It just, I mean, I don't. To me, I think they're beautiful enough that you don't need to alter it to get more sales. Because if you're having to alter it to get somebody to buy it, Does the person really need it? No, they probably just don't need it. It's just that they have the money and they want it, and that's
Eh,
whatever. It's unfortunate.
that's what I was going to get to. It becomes one of those things. And it seems to be around the circles of people that have that extra money, and it's a way to kind of show off. Oh, I got this fish that's worth, X amount of dollars. They don't really know much about it, but just they look at it more as the value of the item than the fish itself. And it's for them to be able to show people and go, oh, look, this fish right here costs tens of thousands of dollars. So me
Well,
knowing that that's a thing, I was always curious how much of this, you know, this shady operations are going behind where they're trying to, with people that don't have a lot of knowledge, could get fooled into paying thousands of dollars for something that's not necessarily what they're saying it is.
well, this is just my opinion, but I believe that the koi that it's being done to, nobody's going to be able to afford it anyway. It's not like the person who's buying the koi that asks the person in Japan, I want that fish altered, is going to be selling it to Tom, Dick, or Harry or whatever. They're going
Yeah.
to want to keep that koi because they're going to want to show it off. It's not really that big of a deal. You can go to any breeder out here, any koi dealer or whatever, and what you buy is going to be genuinely what you're looking at. It's not. It's to me, it's not that big of a deal right now. But if it becomes a thing and becomes a practice where every fish has got to look a certain way, then yeah, I don't think that would ever happen, to be honest with you. I just think it's just your eccentric rich people who literally want things perfect, and if they have the money, they want to pay for it. And I mean, if you're in Japan and you're a dealer and you got a guy telling you, okay, I'll give you X amount of dollars for this fish if you alter it, what are you going to do? I mean, they got to eat, they got to live, they got to continue with their business. I mean, of course they're going to accommodate. I mean, I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming again money, which we all know is the root of all evil. Anything that you have a lot of money that you're going to pay for is going to be probably bad, and whatever. It's just money does not ever bring good. It always brings something more worse when it comes to a lot of it. So it doesn't surprise me at all that it happens. It's unfortunate, but yeah, it's not something that the average person that wants to start keeping koi, you don't have to worry. If you're going to go to like Petco, PetSmart, you're going to get a koi, trust me, it is not happening to those fish because what you're paying for that fish, there's no way somebody's going to take time to sit and draw on it. It's just not going to happen. So,
Mhm.
I mean, they're pretty safe that they're going to start out with those. But yeah, hey,
How big? The other question that I've had, and this is, I'm not very familiar with it because I appreciate koi's, but I'm not really into the hobby as far as keeping them and stuff like that. But how big is the industry here in the states? Do we have a lot of farms that produce quality koi, or is that something that is still kind of evolving and trying to get to where they have the recognition of some of the obviously Japan has the history behind all these kois and it kind of like the I can't speak today, originators
originator?
of,
Yeah.
yeah, of these fish. um are we kind of at that level here in the industry, or are we still a lot of several steps behind?
In my opinion, I think we are a lot of steps behind, to be honest with you. Because in America, what do we do? When we like something, we buy it. We don't make anything here in America, remember? We used to. Um, yeah. I don't feel that there's any one actual breeder that I can literally say, oh, you know what, that's a really good breeder. He pumps out top quality koi every time. Because every good breeder that I know of, and I know some all the way in New York, and I know some in Florida, and I know some in Cali, they all import.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, we don't. I don't think we just I just don't think the interest is there to want to come up with a new breed, to come up with a new koi. Plus, there's always that thing where you get people that'll go, oh well, if it's not from Japan, I don't want it. It's not worth anything. You'll get those
Okay.
people that'll say it. And I'll tell you what, I watch UK channels all the time, and there's a farm out there in UK. It's called New Forest Koi, and Rick is the owner of it. And I'll tell you what, that guy pumps out, and I'm not even kidding you, I think better fish than what I'm seeing come out of Japan. That guy is, I mean, I see him harvest his mud ponds. I see what comes out of them. I see what they're breeding in Japan. I see what comes out of them. And he is right there with them. And there's even some that I think are maybe even better than what I see in Japan. The guy is really good at what he does. Super knowledgeable, super. I mean, if you could ever get him to come on your show, I guarantee you that is a guest that you would not be sorry that you got on your show, because that man is a buffet of knowledge. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's very
Okay.
smart.
Well, here's a little bit of me showing my hand and how little I know about koi. But I have always associated koi with being a cold water species. Is that necessarily true, or are they a lot sturdier than we know?
No, you are right. They are a cold water carp. They like it better in cooler waters. When you're trying to grow them on, you kind of want to keep them, right around the 70, 75-degree mark. Anything over that, they're going to suffer. I mean, they don't do very well. And the warmer that water goes, the more you're going to have to pump some air in there, or you're going to lose them. They're just going to go belly up. They are definitely a cold water carp.
Which is probably why I don't see too many koi ponds out here in Arizona, because we get pretty warm unless they have some real deep ponds. But then again, I wonder how much of that thermal layers really happens on the opposite spectrum of it. Whereas you're dealing with the cold, I wonder what the heat does to those ponds.
Well, I can tell you, I know a guy in India. His name's Sid. He runs a Chiba Koi, and it's hot. It's hot in India all the time where he's at, and his pond just sits there and bakes in the sun all day long. But he has a lot of aeration, and a lot of circulation going on in his pond. So I mean, I think it's okay, and not only that, but you can always shade the pond. You can get a sail, put it over the pond, and as long as they have some place to get out of the sun, and they've got proper circulation and they got proper aeration, you can keep them in a warmer climate. I mean, climate. They have them in Las Vegas, right in the desert. I used to work at the Suncoast Hotel and Casino, right on Alta, and then there's a golf course, and then there's another casino right next to our casino, and they have a huge koi pond. But they were smart enough to put it in the shade, some of it, and so I mean, you can keep fish in the desert. It's not going to hurt them. It just you got to be smart about how you do it.
Yeah, Laro's a friend of mine that she's here in where I live, in the town that I live, and she's telling me that even here locally, I guess I just haven't really been out. I've only been here in Yuma for about 3 years, and a lot of the time has been going from my house to work and back. It hasn't
Uh,
really been recently until probably this year, the beginning of this year, that I've really have gone, out and about and really looked at the city in itself. But I was just kind of curious because it seems like every time I go more towards the West Coast, the San Diego region, all that coastal region, every single park has some sort of a koi pond. And I haven't really seen that as much down here now. But it is true that you mentioned Vegas. When I do go visit my daughter, but it's like these, they're like lakes. They're not, I wouldn't call them a pond. They look like big old lakes. And obviously there it's more money investment, I guess, in those ponds.
oh yeah, the Marriott they put in a really big pond, and there's oh wow. I mean, and it's I don't know. I don't know. I was told one time because I know one of the security officers that worked there. He told me one time approximately how many fish they had and the gallons, and I can't remember right now what it is, but they've got quite a bit, and they're a decent size of what they've got in there right now. So I know it can be done. It's just a matter of being smart about where you're putting it. You had Tobias Holstein on a month ago, whatever it was, and
Hmm.
he's got koi. He's in Cali. It's warm where he's at, so I
Well,
mean, you can
he's in
keep
the
them.
he's in the LA area, and it warm for the it's all relative when it comes to temperatures, because I can tell you at 42 degrees it's freezing out here, where you're gonna laugh at me and go, that's just a spring day for for us, you know. So it's relative, but because out here we're
Yeah,
running 114, 112 during the peak of the summer, which
yeah,
is hot. I don't care, I don't care where you're at. It isn't most of those areas that claim to be hot. It's a little bit different. So that's why I was kind of curious if they really did well in the upper range temperatures, because it just kind of seems to me that they're not as prevalent down here down here in the desert. Doesn't mean that people don't keep them. It's just I don't see them
yeah.
as often as you get further where the temperature is a little bit more what I call normal ranges, like in the 90s to 50s kind of range.
Right, right.
But yeah, it's like I said, it's been I was curious because I know people keep goldfish ponds out here, but goldfish are a little bit more tolerant too. I when I started in the hobby, I also made the mistake of thinking that goldfish had to be kept cooler, but they're really a tropical fish. I mean, the what's the reason they become invasive is because they can't tolerate such a wide range that if they get in waterways, they can manage to survive.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're a lot hardier, I think.
Yeah, so that's why. But I was always curious about koi because koi are, I mean, to me they're beautiful, and I guess it's the butterfly koi that just kind of look majestic because they have those long flowing fins, and when it seems all the videos or pictures you see of them, they're just taken where they're just kind of undulating in the water, and it just looks like a fantasy fish, almost like a underwater dragon.
Yeah, they are pretty. I do have a couple butterflies here. I I I tend to go more towards the standard fin. I like them, but I do have butterflies. Yes, I do have a few of those.
Yeah, there's just something different about it, and I'm assuming it's not necessarily in the best situation for the fish itself. It's more of a us wanting something different, because I don't know how difficult it is for them to be able to move versus just the regular fins that they normally have. So I don't know. It's I think it's more of they're done for an aesthetic purpose, which most of your long fins that we have, even in our hobby as fish keepers, those fish do struggle a little bit more.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a guy got a YouTube channel that I follow, and he's got these fancy goldfish, and oh, they got these big, huge things on their head, and his fish it is forever upside down on its head. And whenever he goes to mess with it, it just starts swimming away, no big deal. And he's like, that's just the way he is all day long. He just like likes to sit upside down on his head, and he's been doing it for years. But I mean, that's because we made them that way. So kind
Yeah.
of like you said, a pug dog. We smashed in their noses because we thought they were cute. It is what it
Do
is.
you see, other than the fin, um, I guess manipulation of these fish in the koi hobby, is there also like, unfortunately for us, there's there's the existence of what they call balloon fish. Basically, what they've done for to goldfish over the years is compact the body and changing the physical structure of the fish to, I guess, make it more aesthetic or whatever. But do you see that happening with koi, where they're trying to make them smaller or trying to do different modifications to them, or is it just the fins themselves that they're really messing with?
No, there's just two different categories. There's the butterfly and the standard. I don't see them messing with anything. As far as the goldfish, though, I did hear. I mean, it's been a thing for like the last almost year that I guess they're pushing this. I can't think of the name. Tom Tamasuki or it's a goldfish that Denichi is, I guess, producing, and it's like the goldfish, and it's like a round ball. It looks so fat. And
Oh,
Amasuka, um, I forget what the name of it is, but yeah, it's not something that I would be interested in. But everybody always jokes about it and says, that's going to be the next big thing. And it's like,
yeah.
I don't know about that, but
That's why I
I
was
don't know. They're
curious.
kind of odd looking.
Yeah, that's why I was curious if the koi industry is kind of eyeing that and going, oh, okay, this is another source of a way to us to increase revenues by physically changing the look of these fish. Well, I guess one of the biggest things is like they're kind of limited in the market because to be able to keep koi, they get big. They're what's the smallest species of koi that you can keep? How big do they get?
Um, I mean, you can buy a koi, and depending on how you feed it, what temperature you keep it in, and how big of a pond you have, it could grow and maybe only be, you know, 25 cm, 30 cm. That's it. Just a
Oh, about
standard
a
size
foot.
fish. Or you can pump that koi with really good food, keep it in a warmer temperature, and offer it a bigger growing space, and you can turn that 20, 25, 30 cm fish into, an 80, 90 cm fish. I mean, every fish has a potential. I mean, how do I put it? Because that's not exactly accurate. There are certain koi that you can see have the shoulders and the head and the tail, I mean, and the body to potentially grow very huge.
Oh,
And
okay.
but then there's other ones that I've seen Rick look at fish, that at New Forest Koi and go, yeah, it ain't gonna be big. It's not gonna be a big one. He can tell. That's how good this guy is. He can look at that fish as a little toe side and say, no, that's just gonna, it's not gonna be a jumbo. It's not gonna be a big fish. He knows. And I mean, I don't think I'll ever get that good to be able to judge them when they're that small as to how big they're gonna be. But I do know that temperature, food, and the air, the space you're keeping them in has a huge difference in how big that koi is going to get.
Mm. Yeah, it's just I was, 'cause within all fish industries, they're always trying to see where they can expand their market to. So I was kind of curious because I mean, there's definitely a very distinct look about a koi fish, and now I'm wondering if they're trying to make like miniature, like what we've done with canines. We've got teacup dogs. I'm curious if the industry kind of looks at that and goes, well, that's a niche in the market that we could potentially get into, and then they start doing like these miniature kois. But
Well, they already have goldfish that they call koi, because they're koi colors.
okay.
So hopefully that will stop them from doing anything like that in the future if they plan on it. But no, I don't. I think in Japan, I watched a couple of videos, recent videos, and they're looking into different breeds. They're always trying to make a new koi. Oh, I mean, this is this golden corn that I'm getting delivered next Wednesday morning. Um, that koi is a newer koi, but there's even a newer breed of koi that was at the All American Koi Show, and I'll be darned if I can remember what that name is because it's a hard name. All those Japanese names to me are hard. I'm sorry. It's just they're very hard for me to remember them.
Yeah.
But it's a new breed of koi, and um, yeah, I don't remember, to be honest with you, what it even looked like. I know we videotaped it, but it's I had Kiyosuri on the brain. That's what I went there for. Me and Maureen were like so focused on getting our Kiyosuris that everything else was kind of like a blur the first day.
Yeah, give me a second because oh well, I'll call her back. It was my wife. She must be in her break at work, but I'll just
Well, we can if
no
you
no no no
want
no
to.
no no
Okay.
no. It's fine. She knows that I do live streams, and if I don't pick up, I just put it out there. I'll call you back, and she'll be fine. But
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah,
we
no
have a
that.
very horrible storm approaching, and I don't know if I'm going to lose internet. I mean, I'm
Oh,
seeing
okay.
lightning bolts, but
Do
yeah,
you
I
do
mean,
you need to do anything outside with the koi that you need to go
no,
or? Oh, okay,
no,
okay.
no, they're
I,
good. I just know
Now,
that we got a really bad storm coming.
is it like are you guys expecting snow or just rain?
Hail, rain, and
Oh,
tornadoes are in the forecast.
huh,
So
okay.
the,
Yeah,
I just
that
have
sounds
to be
pretty bad.
watchful. Well, I mean, every time we have a storm, they tell you you're going to die, and we're going to have a tornado. It's going to hail. It's going to, and then yeah, you just kind of hope for the best. I mean, what else are you going to do? There's really nothing you can do. It's like bring it on, I guess. We'll wait and see if I'm alive after it's over. There's nothing you can
Now,
really do about it.
because of the possibility of strong winds, how are you guys anchoring down your little shades that you guys have done on the lakes? Are those kind of cemented into the ponds, or they're just kind of weighted down? Because I know in the winter I noticed that you guys had these little canopies over the lakes.
Oh, yeah, what I did was, we have dog kennel panels over the ponds. Then we had built frames over those and then put it's like a polytunnel, polycarbonate tunnel, laid that over them, and then went ahead and put straw all the way around the outer perimeter where the wind would come, and then also use clips to clip on the poly. And
Oh,
the weight of the straw just holds it down so much better than the clips. And that just keeps the wind off of it, the cold off of it. And I mean, they're already off the ponds. We took all that
oh, okay.
apart. The ponds are all open right now. I mean, yeah, so I'm not worried about it. Now, if the polytunnel was on it and it was cold and this was coming, yeah, I'd be worried. But
Yeah, I was gonna
no,
say
my
because they're like
ponds are
little
open.
sails waiting to get picked up by the air.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're forever bucking the wind here. We have the worst wind in Illinois. It really is bad.
Yeah, well, you got it's because of the Great Lakes, right? You guys have all that change of temperatures, and you guys because how close are you guys to Chicago?
About 90 miles. We're about
Oh,
90 miles south of Chicago.
oh,
So when
okay.
you hear that Chicago has lake effect snow, that does not affect me. I'm
Oh,
way
okay.
down here.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm way down. I'm far away from Chicago. So yeah, I'm more towards, if you look on the map, if you see Champaign, Illinois, yeah,
Mm.
Champaign is a little bit closer to me. Like in my area, we don't have local fish shops in my area. All we have is Petco and PetSmart. That's it. All the local mom and pop fish shops have all closed down when they came in. So we have nothing. But because my job takes me into Champaign, which is, it's about a 50-minute ride from here, there's local pet shops still in Champaign. So if I need to pick a stress coat or food, whatever I need, I can pick it up from the local fish store and then bring it back
Okay.
home. So that's my closest local fish shop is in Champaign.
Okay. Now, the other thing that I wanted to ask you, and I think you kind of alluded to it when we started talking about, but um, the is this your hobby or is it you and your husband's hobby?
It's my hobby. Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely my hobby. My my husband would do anything that I ask him to do, which is why if you are married to somebody who tolerates your horrible hobbies or habits or whatever, to me, you should always be very mindful of what you ask for and always take into consideration that, you know, I mean, always remember how generous that person is to help you to do
Yeah.
whatever. And I am like really blessed with the man that I married, and so I have to be careful of things that I tell him I like or anything like that, because I do not want him to go out of his way to do things for me. So I got to be very careful. But yes, he knows I love the fish. He knows that I love the koi, and he knew that I wanted to build ponds in the back, and that's why he said, "Oh, I'll be more than happy to build you these ponds if that's what you want." And, I mean, yeah, so we did build the pond, but he would be more than willing to take it one step further because he knows it would make me happy. I have to be the one to put the brakes on and say, okay, well, I know there's other things that you like to do. So we're going to hold off on going forward with my wants because we need to take care of a couple things you want to do around here. You have to be able to balance that. Otherwise, you turn into like always the one receiving and never being the one giving. And that's not a
Yeah.
marriage. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely my hobby. Definitely.
So has he kind of grown an interest in the koi himself too? I know you mentioned that he was talking about probably the commercial side of it.
Yeah, he actually, ever since the babies, the fry were born, oh my goodness, I'm telling you, he he was like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. And oh, look at this one. This one's starting to get a white head. Oh, look at this one. This one's turning black back here. Oh, look. So he has definitely liked watching how the babies are developing and how they're changing colors and everything. And I think it's sparked an interest in him because, I mean, there was a time when he would go by the pond, he'd look, and then he'd just keep walking. Now he's out there feeding them. So they are growing on him. I'm not kidding you. They are growing on him.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, it'll be it's always nice to be able to share a hobby with your spouse. That's what my wife is gradually coming around to. I mean, what I love about it is she gives me the opportunity to have the hobby. And like you said, there's got to be a balance. That's why sometimes I gotta make sure that I stay in check because I can go all out and just get focused on what I'm interested in. And but I know that also that what happens with that I can also burn out real quick because I go too hard. And so I need to find that I'm always constantly trying to find that perfect balance where I can have the hobby, but I also got to spend time with her. I mean, she's my spouse. We got to do stuff together. We got to go have
Yeah.
breakfast and do other stuff because it's just like you were saying, you got to have that relationship, and it's important. I, but yeah, it's just once in a while she'll come in here. I'll catch her coming in here and kind of looking at the fish, with not necessarily me being in the garage.
Yeah. And then you kind of give them that smile, like, I know you like it.
Yeah, what and she's had. I try to the way I've kind of try to incorporate her is like if I'm gonna, and I don't normally get new fish just because I have the ones that I have and I'm keeping them until they live their life, but I'm not constantly uh trying to buy fish just for the sake of buying fish. uh but when that opportunity does show up, I usually try to include her in her opinions and go, what do you think of this and what do you think of that, and kind of trying to see if I can get her a little bit more interested, and it's come around. I know she likes angelfish. Is one of the reasons why I also keep angelfish, because I know she really enjoys them. So that
Oh,
to me
yeah.
is like a little connection there.
Oh, they're beautiful fish. Like I said, when we moved here 4 years ago, I knew that I wasn't going to need the 185 anymore. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and sell the 185, put that money away. So when I talk him into building me these ponds, I have extra money sitting aside. Well, fast forward to today, um, we are seriously considering going to buy another tank because I want to get shrimp in the tank. I want to get there's a few fish that I really, I mean, watching all these aquarium channels has literally lit a fire under me to say, okay, you gave up your fish tanks so you could have koi, and now you have the koi, and now you have your ponds, and instead of going further, obsessively with the ponds, stop for a minute and get a tank and enjoy the fish that you used to enjoy inside. And I think honestly, that's what I'm going to do. I had a tank in the barn that I was going to reseal,
Hmm.
and it had a slate bottom on it. It was an old tank. And
Okay.
I just, oh gosh, it's so heavy, so hard. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to just buy a new acrylic, like a bow front? And so I don't know. We're debating which way we're gonna go, but yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many good aquarium channels out there. So many people who will take the time and take their cameras up to their fish tanks and show you, tell you all about the fish, all about the
Mm.
plants. And gosh, I mean, I worked at a pet shop for 2 years and I didn't know so much stuff that these YouTubers who are doing these videos are showing me. I'm like, well, huh, I worked at a pet shop and I didn't know that. You know, I mean, they don't really teach you all the different plants. They don't teach you all that stuff. They just say sell it, and you just like okay. When they
Yeah.
point it out, you just sell it to them. But yeah, I mean, these YouTubers are awesome. I mean, the way they show these fish and these plants, and they don't just show them. They tell you how you take care of them, what
Mm.
better light, it's like wow. YouTube is like a fantastic tool if you're like a young parent and your child wants a fish tank. Oh my gosh, there are
Yeah.
so many channels that will literally walk you through the process. So you don't have to be afraid and go to a pet shop employee and go, I don't know what I'm doing. Just hook me up with whatever he needs. That's not a good way. That's how it always was. And now it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, and that's what I've always said. It's having access to platforms like YouTube. It's There's very few things you're not going to know how to do because somebody is somewhere along the line has done a video about whatever it is you're trying to do. I always talk about a lot of the repairs here at home. Like I've fixed a dryer. I don't know anything about dryers, but I found a video that happened to have the same model dryer that I had and was having the same problem, able to troubleshoot it and replace the part that was wrong with it. Uh, and and it wasn't because I knew how to do that. It was because I saw a video on YouTube that showed me how to do that. And so yeah, to and I think what I am seeing is when you're talking about pet stores and the employees coming in, they do have a little bit more knowledge than what probably kids that were coming in before because they didn't have access to that information. Nowadays, you get a lot of kids that'll watch videos and learn and having a better understanding. So by the time they take the job, they're like several steps ahead of anybody else that's coming in with no experience.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think as a result, you're seeing an improvement at some of these like the big box stores. Uh, but obviously they're limited by whatever the store is going to allow them to do. Some stores are better than others because I see a big difference. Uh, Not all Petcos or PetSmarts are managed exactly the same. It really boils down to the personnel they have working at the store. You can tell the difference. You can tell when the manager or the employees that are working in that department have some experience and knowledge because it's just there's just a drastic difference in the way the aquariums are kept.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, see, I don't go into Petco and PetSmart. I just it's like you said. I when I go down to Champaign, I hit the local fish store down there because I'm always trying to promote the little guy. You know, I mean, without us, they're just going to all disappear. There's
Yeah,
enough people who just go to Petco for whatever that they don't need me. I'd rather just go to a small mom and pop.
I'm trying to remember who I was actually talking about that too with the local fish stores. That the biggest difference that I've also noticed is I remember growing up and you knew you were in a fish store because you could smell it. It had this very distinct smell. I don't know if it
Yeah.
was like mildew or something like that. But now that I've been doing videos and I've been going to some of the local fish stores, you don't get that smell. You don't get that fish store smell anymore. And I don't know if it's because people have come a long ways with the way they're keeping their aquariums. I don't know exactly what it is, but I do notice that, and the appearances of a lot of these newer stores that you see in today's market, which I kind of like to call them like boutique stores, because they've taken the time not only to make um, the area where they're keeping the fish nice and neat, but they're incorporating other elements within the store where it just kind of makes it, I don't know, a little bit more enticing, a little bit more. The display tanks you see in today's local fish stores are 100 times better than I remember seeing anything growing up.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a combination of all these different hobbies that have kind of merged together. Like I'm looking right behind you, the plant hobby. People that have kept plants, that's a big hobby. Well, now you're starting to see where you're taking plants and combining it with another hobby, which is, in my case, aquariums. And I start seeing that not only with that, and then you start seeing some reptile people that are kind of combining these two hobbies with their reptiles and doing these what they call paludariums or terrariums and stuff like that, where it's really interesting to see how slowly everything is kind of merging together and kind of we're trying to create these little ecosystems within these small enclosures. So that to me is what I've been really drawn to and have really enjoyed in this second coming of my hobby, because when I was younger I didn't know much. I not that I know much more now, but compared to what I knew in my teenage years, obviously I know a lot more, but there's still I haven't even scratched the surface of the knowledge that's out there. And just looking at some of the names of the people that are here in this chat, they're 100 times more knowledgeable than me. They're the ones that you're referring to that will take the time to explain the species of the fish and the plant. I just know that I can keep it alive and it looks good with these plants. That's as much as I know.
No, I understand. Yeah, there's some YouTubers that, I mean, I've seen videos that last over an hour, but you don't even realize you're watching it for an
Mhm.
hour. You're just so into their tour and what they're showing you that, I mean, I was watching a live last night, and I believe you were on it. I think you joined it late, and I don't even remember what channel I was on, but this guy was showing a tour of all his tanks. And I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah,
I was fascinated. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never even knew that existed. I didn't know that existed. I mean, it seemed like it was over so fast. And I'm
yeah.
like, and next thing I know, it's like 1:30, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get off here. I got to go. I got to get some sleep. But I didn't realize that all that time went by because the tour he was giving, was it Shady Grady?
Yeah, that's
That's who
shady.
it was. Okay. He was given such an awesome tour and explaining everything. I was so into watching what he was doing that I had not realized all that time went. But
Yeah.
that's the kind of YouTuber I'm talking about is somebody that will walk around and show you. I've seen your videos too. You do it. You walk around and you explain the fish. You show what's going on. See, I can get into that. I absolutely love those videos. I can't get enough of them. So thank you for doing those videos because there's people out there, even people that don't have a fish tank right now, like me, who thoroughly enjoy watching your guys' videos. I absolutely love it.
Well, there's got to be, because I've managed to fool almost 1,700 people to follow what I'm doing. So, I guess there's something about, I guess they enjoy what I'm doing. So, but like to me, the biggest enjoyment that I've discovered in this whole journey, besides keeping the fish, obviously, has been the getting to meet people. Have been, I I've really have relished the opportunity to get to a point now where it gives me access to have conversations with people like you, with plenty of people that are in the chat that under any other circumstances I would have probably have never met, and we would have never been able to have a conversation because we just would have never have crossed paths. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy. I know I started out more like a fish keeper hobby and kind of that, but the reality is I love not only the keeping of the fish, but I love the conversations a lot more because I get to know the people a little bit better. I get to learn from what they're doing and realize, oh, okay, maybe that wasn't working for me here. I could try to see what they're doing and take from their experience and their knowledge and try to see if I can get it to work in my situation. And every 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 single person that I've had the great opportunity to have a conversation with, I've always walked away with a lot more information that I came into the conversation. And that to me has been the most enjoyable part of this hobby.
Oh, I will definitely agree with that. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there are so many knowledgeable people out there that, I mean, that if you can't find what you're looking for about fish, then you ain't looking. That's just the
Yeah.
way it is. I mean, because there are so many good people out there. It's crazy. I already have in my mind of what I think I might want to get, um, but yeah, when you were talking to Jose the other day, and he was talking about, you know, like the hospital, working at a hospital and everything. I'm like, wow, okay, there's another guy that worked. I used to work at a hospital, so I totally understood his stories. And yeah, we weren't allowed to say the Q word in the hospital either. And so I mean, if you said that word, I mean, you would get daggers shot at you. And it's like, no, don't say that word. Don't get, you're not allowed to say it here. So I totally understood what he was saying when he was talking about, dealing with the hospital and whatnot. And I'm like, wow, okay, cool. Somebody else that's been in that situation. So yeah, I mean, you just don't realize that, and unless he was on your show, I'd be going to watch his channel and I would have never known that about him. I would have never known that, you know, we had that in common. So yeah, it's really
Well,
good that
and
people do that.
yeah, and that's the other thing that I know the commonality or the link between you and I and any other of the guests has always been revolving around the fish. But there's a lot more to us. We're more than just the fish. There's a lot of other experiences that we've lived through, uh, other things that have happened, and those are the stuff that I also find fascinating. It's just getting to know people, just getting to know, and you get a better understanding as to why they do certain things the way they do, because at the end it reflects a lot of their personality will come in through whatever it is they're doing, whether they're doing videos or the way they're keeping their aquariums or the way they like to express themselves. That's all stuff that I find interesting and intriguing, and I always learn uh, a little bit more by being able to meet the people and talk to them. So that's the part that I've always, like I said, that's what has really made this so fun for me. Plus, it's a little opportunity to geek out and nerd out because you guys are the only ones that I can share my crazy hobby with, or that will have a little bit of understanding of what it's like to keep more than just one aquarium. And in your case, is more than just one pond. There's that similarities where it's like, yeah, I understand it, I get it. I not wanting to get rid of fish, I totally get that. Um, you know, the what I can equate to the quantity of fish that get produced is like when you keep guppies. There's a point where you go, oh, I don't want to get rid of them, but then it gets to a point where it's like, oh no, I have to because I can't. There's only so much room in this aquarium to be able to keep them that I've got to do something, either get another aquarium or find somebody else that'll keep them for me. But it's just yeah. There's, even though in the scale of things, your ponds are a lot bigger than this, but we still I can find some commonalities where it's like, yeah, that's going to become an issue if you don't get rid of any of the fish. Eventually,
Oh, yeah.
it's going to get to a point where it's like, what do you do?
And that's the reason why I'm really hesitant about moving forward and breeding or anything like that, because I know I'm going to have a hard time selling them. I mean, I just know I am. Um, I don't know. I don't know that I want to dive down that rabbit hole because I just don't want to get rid of what I have, and I see it, I like it, I want it. I can't. And he's looking at it from, well, if you sell these, like the babies we have out there now, he's like, well, if you sell them and just, make a few dollars on them, then you'll have more room for more fish and you'll have a little bit extra money to buy a new fish. And then I'm like, okay, I know you make sense, but I really, I mean, I want to watch the babies grow. I mean, how do I, and he's like, well, you don't have to keep them all. And I'm like, I know. So, I mean, yeah, it's a thing. I got to get out of my head that I know that when you breed something, you have to sell it. I get it. That's why I don't know if I want to do that because I know it's going to be an issue for me. I just know it. It's not that I want everything. It's just that when I fall in love with it, I get attached to it, and it's just hard. It's very, very, very hard. And people that fall in love that easily should not breed. They should just say, you know what, no, maybe I better not do that. So, and I did not intend on them breeding. What happened was I pulled them out of the pond late, out of the front pond. I put them in the back pond. That back pond is warmer than the front pond, and it
Sugar.
encouraged spawning. And yeah, so
So let me ask you
that's
this,
what.
because I don't know. I I've never kept koi, but do they predate on their fry, or are they really good parents?
No, they will. They
Okay,
will. And what's really shocking is I'm surprised that so many survived, to
that's
be
what I was
honest
going
with
to
you.
ask.
Because there is five big koi in there. Five. And you can, I mean, if you go back in my videos, you can see how many of them survived. Some of them went down the waterfall into the bog and then from that bog into another pond. But there are still quite a few of them that stayed up there with the parents. And yeah, they're fine. They're not eating them, which I'm like, wow, okay. But yeah, they
Oh,
usually do if you leave them there. That's why you want to separate them. But
but you only separate them if you're trying to produce more. Like in your case, where
right.
you want to keep a balance in the system, you don't want to get too many of the fry surviving, because then you get to the point where what are you going to do with them? So you just kind of let nature run its course, and instead of
Yeah.
having 100 survive, if you get 3 or 4 out of that whole spawn, then you're good because it's not growing exponentially your population.
Well, and let's face it, it really is hard getting fry out of that big of a pond. I mean, it's 6 feet deep. I mean, I'm wearing glasses. You know how hard it is for me to see fry 6 feet down? Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I could have got them all out anyway. I'm sorry. But, and you're talking about a pond with a liner that has folds. So
Mm.
they're all hiding in the folds. As soon as they see the net coming, it's just, yeah, there's no way I could have got them all out.
And now that we're on the subject of the fry, how quickly do they get to a size where they can survive in there? I mean, do they grow very fast, or is it a slow growing species? Um, 'Cause like I said, I know very little information about koi just from watching a few videos, but
No,
is that why
they
is
grow.
that oh, okay? They grow pretty quick.
Yeah, when they normally spawn, it's in the spring. So they have all summer to grow. But these spawned late fall.
Mm,
So I was trying, that's why I put the polytunnel over the ponds in the back, because I was trying to keep the pond temperature as warm as I could,
okay.
because I didn't want the fry to die because they're so tiny. And normally I would, I mean, if I was breeding koi, I wouldn't have bred them that time of year. But if something happened and they were like really nice koi and they happened to spawn that time of year, yeah, I mean, you're going to want to do whatever you can to keep them alive. And, you know, they're like very underdeveloped for that cold water. I mean, we got negative 20 degrees. So, I mean, that's cold. And I was just afraid they were going to die. So
Mm,
that's why I did the whole polytunnel thing. Now, this winter, I don't have to cover that pond. All I have to do is just shut off the pump that feeds each fall. Just shut that off, put the aerators in. I'm done. Walk away. Aerators will keep the ice, keep a hole in the ice, so we can have gas exchange. Because it is a small area, you're going to want to do that for that pond in the
mm.
back. Now, the front pond in the back and the front, I don't worry about air. I don't worry about anything. It freezes over for sometimes a month at a time. And all those koi are just fine out there. So you don't need gas exchange for that, the pond in the front. They can go deep enough. And I've never had a koi die out there. So, And I'm not worried about the gas exchange out there. But in these small ponds in the back, yeah, yeah, I need to keep a hole open.
Oh, okay. So the tarps or the plastic you put, it was because of that the late spawning that you had. Then it was not because
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, okay. See, I thought you were doing that because the temperatures were getting so low and you were concerned that the bigger fish were gonna freeze. But not until I hear you say this, it was really because of the small fish you had in there.
Yes. That, yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
the reason why I did it. I'm not going to be, I don't have to do it next winter. I mean, if I'm going to go out there and check temperatures this winter, I'll probably do it again because it's cold. It's freezing outside. But if I'm not going to go do pond temp readings for the winter, then I'm not gonna put the polytunnel out there because what's
Oh,
the point? I mean, there really is no point.
I was gonna say, if you notice that there's a significant difference between having them covered or uncovered, is it and it's the temperatures don't get as cold, I guess, or would you continue to do that, or it's just something where it's like, nah, they're just gonna be fine even without them.
Well, I mean, I'm probably not going to put the polytunnel on this winter for two good reasons. One is so I can compare the
Mm,
difference between uncovered and covered. And two, because you really want your koi to go through a hard winter.
okay.
And I worried a lot about putting that polytunnel on only because if you're not getting that water cold enough and those parasites aren't dropping off that fish, and they
Okay.
don't get to shed their parasites for the winter so they can come out in the spring parasite free, then you are starting a problem that you're going to get stuck having to put PP in the water.
Mhm.
You're going to have to do all this, fluke treatments, all that stuff. I mean, I've never had to do that because here where I'm at, we don't have those issues. We don't have flukes. We don't have trick. We don't have the diseases that other places have because we go through such a harsh winter. And so I'd rather keep it that way. I really don't want to be putting polytunnels over them so the water stays so warm that the parasites don't drop. So next winter, yes, I'll probably leave the polytunnel off, throw in my aerators, and call it a day.
Oh, okay.
That way they
All
can go
right.
through a good hard winter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that that was part of the process of eliminating pests and diseases off the fish, that they had to go through that cold winter so that the parasites would drop off. That's I didn't know that.
Well, if you've ever eaten like a pike fish, when when you get one in the winter, it tastes really clean, tastes really good. You get one in the summer when it's full of parasites and worms, yeah, it tastes like what, a slew fish or I mean, it's such a difference from when you catch that fish and you taste it when it's cold water, or you catch that fish in a warm environment. It's just like catfish. Catfish always tastes better right at spring, right when you can catch them in the spring after a good hard winter. I don't
Mhm.
want to eat catfish midsummer, late summer. They don't taste as fresh. They don't taste as good. There's a reason for that. It's just they're not they're just full of parasites and worms and stuff. So you want that fish to shed, you just want to. That's just, I mean, not that I'm gonna eat my koi, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, that's why we have winters so they can shed their parasites. I mean, they don't die, they shed, they go off the fish, but at least they're off the fish.
Yeah.
And then that way they can at least, work on their immune system throughout spring, and then now they come out beautiful, bright, healthy, full of color. Yeah, I mean, that's the way God intended it. That's the way nature set up to do it. So, I mean, I really don't want to mess with that process, is all I'm saying.
Wow. Okay. That was real interesting because I had no. I had that's new information for me. I had no idea that that was the case. Um, that they had to go through that. That was but it makes perfect sense that there's got to be a way if you're not adding chemicals to a natural body of water. There's got to be a way for this fish to be able to shed whatever's, giving them trouble. So that was pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, well, you're always wanting to stay away from chemicals whenever you can.
Yeah.
Nobody enjoys taking a chemical and dumping them into their tank or pond. I mean, if you can alleviate that, then yeah, you're going to. That's why I put the bog filter on my pond. I have one pond set up with another pond and a bog filter in the middle. I want an area where beneficial bacteria can just go crazy. I even added biohome in there. So the beneficial bacteria can live off the biohome in there. I mean, I have mechanical filtration, but I mean, you can't just go off of mechanical. It has to be, biological. I mean, I think biological is way more important than mechanical. And
Yeah.
if you balance that out, you should never have to worry about it. My pond, I should only have to worry about it once a year. I clean it. That's it. I mean, and it's only 9.5 months old. It's not even a year old. My pond is still maturing. And when I went out there and I saw all the algae, because I mean, there was a time when, I mean, if you go back on my channel, I pulled out over 400 feet of algae. I mean, when was
Where
the last
LG?
time you pulled out 400 feet of algae out of anything?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of algae. And that wasn't even out of both ponds. That was one pond, one of
Yeah,
them.
it wasn't even the
So
entire pond. I don't think it was just a little section that you were able to get
it,
access to.
exactly, it wasn't even the backside. And in that video, it was 383 feet. And then after I stopped the video and then we walked back to finish cleaning up, there was a big, huge chunk of algae on the backside I didn't even grab. So when we calculated, it was over 400 feet of algae that day we pulled out. That's a lot of algae. But guess what happened? The pond is starting to come back to life. All of the cold water beneficial bacteria I've been throwing in there and everything that is going on there, you can see the bottom of the pond now. That water is crystal clear. The algae is slowly dying off because the yellow flag that I have in the bog, which is a real powerful sedge, I mean, I've got it throughout that bog and it's starting to grow back. That's taking nutrients away from the algae. And plus, I'm dumping a ton of beneficial bacteria in. That's doing its job. I don't even have my mechanical filtration in. So I'm going to be putting that in probably in the next 2 weeks. And hopefully by then, by the time I have my mechanical filtration running, I have my biological built up in that bog, and that bog is huge. That thing's going to run itself all summer long. I'm not even going to have to worry about it.
Yeah, but the bug will also act as a mechanical filtration. So, it's because it'll because you have all those different layers of coarse material in there. It's actually a natural mechanical filter.
Yeah, well, I'm adding the biofilter, the extra biofilter to take care of all of the rotting and dying algae. That's why I'm adding them in there. And that's why
Oh,
they're
okay.
going to get kicked on. So in case I have to either, yeah, I mean, I have treatment for the blanket weed, carpet algae, string algae, whatever you guys want to call it. I have treatment for that I've used last year, which because it was a brand new pond, I had to. It's called Green Clean. Real good product. I'm really happy with it actually. I can either use that again, which I really don't want to because it's chemical, or I could use peroxide. Um, I've done peroxide in the past before. It's not as scary as people think it is, and it really does work.
Hmm.
But the only thing is you have to really pump up your aeration in that pond, and you have to make sure your mechanical filtration is spot on. It's ready, it's clean. You're not, I mean, if not, it's just gonna, it runs havoc on everything. If I don't need it getting caught up in the bog and overflowing my bog, that's why I want that mechanical filtration going in the top pond so it catches and draws all that in before it goes into my bog. So it's a
Yeah,
matter of, for me, separating it.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true. I'm just thinking about how much algae is in there over the winter. That yeah, it could easily impact the bog and saturate it where you're not going to have that filtration happening anymore. So, but yeah.
Yeah, once this pond matures, it's not going to be an issue. And I knew that it was going to get this bad too because I had the polytunnel on this winter. Those temperatures stayed warm inside that polytunnel to the point where algae just took. I mean, it went. Oh wow, this is our home. This is this. She's growing it for us. You know, this. I mean, she built the pond for us. It just went crazy, and I knew it was going to happen. But I thought, I got to keep these fry alive. So it's either, in the spring deal with all this algae or have dead fry. Well, I mean, it was a choice I took. So I just went ahead and put the polytunnels up and said, well, by the time spring comes, it'll be about 9.5 months old and not even mature a pond yet. That pond will probably mature for another year. And then once I get that maturity in that pond from my yellow flag and the bog and everything I have there, and everything's balanced, then it should run itself because I'm not going to be throwing in new fish, taking out fish, throwing in new fish. It will be a balanced pond, and what I have in it is what I'm gonna have in it, and that's gonna be that. If I get more fish, I'm gonna make more ponds. I will.
Well,
it is what it is.
Luckily, you have the real estate to be able to do that. If you had to go there.
Well, that's why we moved here, is because it had a 1/4-acre pond. Oh, I mean, it was filled with cattails, and it took us just forever to clean that whole area out. We had to hire an excavator. He had to come out, reshape the pond, redo everything. But it was well worth it because we knew there was a pretty pond in there somewhere. And it was worth the money that we spent to do it. But yeah, I mean, but if I need another pond, I can just put up another pond. It's not a big deal. But this pond this is the way that's going to be. And whoever's in that pond is going to stay in that pond.
Well, Christine, I want to say thank you for joining me today and coming on and hanging out with me we've been on for an hour and a half now.
Oh wow, have we already? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me out here.
No, it was my pleasure. I had all these intrigues about koi's and stuff like that, and it was nice to be able to have that conversation with you and learn a little bit more. And also, just I've really enjoyed what you're doing, and I was hoping to be able to share that with the rest of the community so that they can come and also see what you're doing and have them follow along with you and the projects you got going on out there. So hopefully, some of the people will be able to go there. One of the things I did want to point out, and I saw Jason's comment. I'm going to call you on that, Jason, because you hardly ever show up to, Aquafunk, come to the live streams. So that's why you didn't have a wrench. But the whole idea of everybody getting a wrench really comes from an interview that Aquafunk had with Father Fish, because he asked him, why do you give everybody a wrench in your chats? And what I've really like about having the wrench is not so much because I want to moderate what people are saying or doing, or much less want to go fetch links and put them on there. But what I like about having a wrench is it allows you, whenever you see a new channel pop up in the chat, be able to go check out their channel. So that's really why I'm doing this. This is something I just started doing now. Anytime I see, especially when it's a reoccurring name, it makes it easier for you to be able to click on somebody's name and get access to their channel directly in case you're interested in finding more people within the community that you might enjoy their content. And that's really based off of that conversation that Aquafunk had with Father Fish, and his reason behind why he gives everybody a wrench, whether he knows them or not, anybody that's new in his chat. And it also seems to be a way that it self-manages who the trolls. It kind of, when everybody can kind of quiet somebody, it just kind of discourages some of that too. Not that I have a problem with trolls or have to deal with them very much, but more for me is because being able to get access to the links. I don't know how many times I've come across a new channel and I can't seem to find them on YouTube because even though you type the name the way it shows up in here, their channel description or link, whatever you call it, is not, it's not exactly the way you find it, or they're so small that YouTube buries them, and you have to scroll through a bunch of other channels that have similar names to be able to access that person. So that's why I'm doing the giving the wrenches to anybody that's watching this, so that you have access to anybody's channel and you're curious to see what they're doing. I encourage you to go check it out and support each other. So that's why, that's the explanation for that, because I know all of a sudden everybody was going like, oh, I got a wrench, I got a wrench. It's, yeah, so that we all get to follow each other and see what we're doing and discover more channels. And so that's that on that. And if I miss somebody, it's just because halfway through the stream I realized that. And if I haven't given you a wrench, make sure within the last 2 or 3 minutes you make a comment so that I can see it, because I can only see who's got a wrench or not on the YouTube side. It won't tell me on stream side, on StreamYard. And so if you want to be able to have access to other people in the chat and see what they're doing, that's why I'm doing it. So, but Christine, is there anything else you want to share with us? Where can we find you? What other social medias are you on? Any upcoming projects or anything like that you want to share?
I do have a Facebook page at Sweet Koyo. I mean, yeah, I don't usually post on it though. I believe I have a Sweet Acre Koi Farm. I have a channel. Actually, it's called a web page. My son told me a web page, and the name of it is Sweet Koyo. I have not done anything with it yet though. But we did buy it. We purchased that. Just in case. I guess my husband could talk me into selling. I don't know. It sits there. I don't even mess with it. I'm not real. Basically, the best place to find me is on YouTube. That's
Okay.
going to be where I'm going to always post. That's going to be where it's at. Like I said, we're starting that new live chat every Sunday at noon, my time.
Oh yeah, we didn't mention that because I know we talked about it backstage. Why don't you tell us about that project you got coming up in your streams?
That's right. Okay, yeah, we didn't talk about it on this. Yeah, we got together with Chris Stubbs from Stubbs Aquatic out in Canada, and Maureen from Keeps Koi Haven, and myself. We all got together, decided that we wanted to do a live, and we are going to be doing it every Sunday at noon, my time. So that's
Okay.
going to be, I don't know what their time, but yeah. So right now, to show you how nervous I am about this, I have never done what you are doing right now, which is setting up a live, setting this up. I've gone on lives before, but never been the one to initiate it. So yeah, real nervous about it. Trying to work through a bunch of hiccups, and I have my son coming over tomorrow to work with me on it. So hopefully it'll all go very smoothly. But I did send you a copy of our intro. Didn't know if you wanted to play it. If you don't, that's fine. If you do, that's fine too.
No, let me get it. It was on Messenger that you sent it. I remember seeing it, but
I think I emailed it to you.
Oh, that's right. Okay, let me go to the email. Bear with me. Yeah, Steven, I just noticed that. I guess I was staring at the damn wrenches on the screen on StreamYard, and I just never dawned on me. But can you make moderators from StreamYard? Because I know that was a thing before where you couldn't create moderators. You had to go straight to the YouTube.
I'm in Central Time Zone, by the way.
Okay. Let's see. Christine, here it is. Create Suites. Is this the one? Yeah. Let me go ahead and pause this so that I can share it. Oh, wait. It's loading. So it's going to be Extreme Fish Hobbyist? Is that what the name of the...
Yes, because as we're going to explain, we went from aquariums into ponds. So yeah, we took it to the extreme. That's what it basically means. That's why I need to get a fish tank too. I need to replace my fish tank I sold. But yeah,
Let me see if it'll. For some reason, it's not. This is the short, but it's not wanting to load. Let me see if there's a. You said there was two of them that you had sent.
no, I only sent you the first one that I did. I think you have to actually click on it. I
Oh,
think
to
it's
get it to
out.
play.
Yeah, because I had to make like a hyperlink for it.
Yeah, because it's. I have the little circle where it looks like it's trying to load it, but it did play on my phone, which is interesting. Um, I'm not
Hmm.
as tech savvy either. I should know more because I grew up with this damn technology, but it got to a point in my life where I said, it's
Well,
not for
you're better
me.
than me. I'm learning all this stuff, and I'm going to be 60 years old this year. So come on. I mean, at least I'm trying. I mean, it scares the you know what out of me, but I'm going to still do it. I'm going to force myself to learn it and do it.
Okay, I think this one will play. No. Oh, there it is. Hold on. Let me let me get the right screen up there because it's not showing, right?
No.
Remove that one. Let me close this one and try to see if I can. I'm fumbling through this.
Well, you're
It's
doing a better
okay.
job than me because I wouldn't even know how to do it.
Whoa, did I close the wrong one? What a knucklehead. I think I did close the wrong one. Let's see. So play there. I can hear it, but I can't see it.
Hmm.
There it is. It's playing, right? Well, it's.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you guys are seeing the same thing I am. There it is. Yeah. So that's Maureen.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. So we had to make that shorter a little bit because it wouldn't fit into the 2 megabyte that they allow on StreamYard. So a lot of it, some of it got cut, I should say, but
Oh, okay.
shortened it down a little bit and got that kind of fixed. But yeah, we're learning. Every day's a school day. You know how it goes.
So it's going to be this next Sunday,
Yeah.
12 o'clock Central Time.
Right. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, with
At
that,
noon.
I want to say thank you so much again,
Thank
Christine,
you.
for joining me today. Hopefully, um, you enjoyed this and you had a good time. And we'll look forward to seeing what you guys are doing next Sunday.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I look forward to having you on our show.
Oh, anytime, anytime. I don't know what I
Awesome.
can
With a nice,
contribute, but
oh, you can give us a nice tour of all your beautiful tanks.
oh, you
We'd
got it.
love it.
Done deal. Done
Awesome.
deal. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you
Thanks,
everybody else
everybody.
for hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys soon, hopefully.
Thanks, guys. Everybody have a good day.